lot there. Joining me now, Conservative MP and Chair of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, Crispin, who has declared he's backing Boris Johnson. Very good evening to you.
Good evening.
You were just explaining something to me. You're not really worried about the negotiation at all, because you think if it all fails, we're still in an OK situation.
Well, the Foreign Affairs Committee looked at this and we published our report on the 26th of April. I suggest people read it because it is highly likely our European partners are not going to be able to agree a negotiating strategy between themselves. They have to, and if there's a qualified minority blocking a deal, either those people who want to deal positively with the UK or those who want to be seen to punish us, then that doesn't work. And equally, the European Parliament has to approve this as well.
Right. So
and
if all of that fails, then
we have to sell into the European single market on most favoured nation terms of WTO rules. Tariffs at about an average of 3%, 10% in some areas, such on cars
Your
and things.
point is that is not the end of the world. That's perfectly
and that's how we
livable.
sell into the United States. But no, but it's better than that, Evan, because we then get control of immigration. We have control of free movement. We then don't have free movement of labour into the UK. We don't have to pay £20 billion into the EU budget. OK, we don't get 10 billion back, but we can at least decide where that 20 billion gets spent. It gets even better than that. We are then in a position where we are regulating our own market and where there are issues
OK, so I understand. You basically think the backstop, if everything else fails, is not too bad.
I don't think people should appreciate
Boris Johnson, can I just ask you, because I want to ask you what you understood by what Boris Johnson wrote in the Telegraph the other day. This line he wrote about British people will be able to go and work in the EU, live, travel, study, buy homes and settle down there. What do you think he meant by that when he wrote that was what was going to be the outcome of the negotiation?
What I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what Boris meant by that. There is plainly going to be.
Can you see any outcome where that happens and we don't? Well, we can restrict them.
Can we go and live in the United States if we have the means, the ability to do so? If we get a green card.
Is that what he meant when he said that? I can't go and live in the United States. But there is a job and get a green card.
And get a green card. Now that
Sorry,
may
I'll
be.
tell you why I'm pushing that. You're supporting him. He's written this thing which appears to imply we will stop them coming here, but we will have the right to go there.
No, and if that's...
He's just been in the middle of a campaign. He ought to know whether that is achievable or not. And I'm asking you whether you think it is achievable.
My view is that we will have to come to a deal about how people move between the United Kingdom and the rest of the European Union.
Can you see that they will allow us freedom of movement without us allowing them freedom of movement? Because that is what your candidate for Prime Minister, who is meant to be an expert on this, having run a campaign on it, has just written.
Well, I'm quite certain everyone is now going to disinter everything that Boris has said, because there's obviously a significant campaign to try and...
But is it unreasonable to take something he wrote in an article for which he was paid several £1,000s at the end of a campaign? He wrote something that was reassuring about what would be the position for the British that appears to most commentators utterly incoherent. Does that not worry you about the candidate you're supporting?
There's uncertainty all over the place amongst the candidates, certainly in the media. Please let me to finish this point. And it is extremely important in the national interest now that we actually get as much certainty as possible about what the bottom line is for the United Kingdom. The bottom line...
You've explained the bottom line,
and that position...
But if we take the bottom line, will I be able to live, travel, study, buy a home and settle down in France, do you think, under your bottom line?
Well, no, if the negotiations...
So how can Boris give me that reassurance in his article?
Well, but that's no doubt what he is seeking to achieve. And it is obviously in the mutual interest of both the United Kingdom and our European partners that is the case. In exactly the same way, as it is in our mutual interest that the tariff regime, particularly in the interest of our European partners, that if they sell nearly twice as many manufactured goods to us as we sell to them, that they would want to see those tariffs reduced.
Can I give you a quick fire round? Because there are some issues which I know bother. Do you think immigration from non-EU countries, if Boris, your candidate, wins, will go up or not when we have our new immigration regime? Because promises were made to Asian communities that it would be easier to get relatives in. Do you think immigration will go up or down?
Well, my view is that we should regulate immigration from outside the United Kingdom, consistently across the piece.
More
both the same
or less
rules,
from outside the EU?
Both the regulation should be the same
Okay,
from
you're not going to
outside
answer
the
that.
EU.
Do you think
no,
that you're not answering it?
No, but Evan, this is rather more serious than trying to.
It's not. I'm
score,
just. These are really
basic
basic questions which have not been answered through the campaign,
but you know
and which your
perfectly well.
candidate is now going to stand for Prime Minister.
But you know perfectly well that the numbers of people that come into the United Kingdom are not necessarily. Depending on what system you set up, is then going to depend how many people come into the United Kingdom. So if you put a cap on the number of visas you're going to allow, that's one way of controlling it. Are you going to seek to control it by the number of issuing
any
green
suggestion
cards?
made in the campaign?
And finally, we are going to have control over this. So we are then going to do the very important business of trying to protect British unskilled and semi-skilled labour from having to compete with people who have professional qualifications coming from Central, East and Southern Europe, or indeed anywhere else in the world. That's why they are not allowed into the United Kingdom.
That is a very long way of saying
outside the European Union.
We don't know whether immigration will go up or not. Crispin Blunt, sorry we have to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed. Thanks.